The following podcast contains graphic content and topics of disturbing nature. Listener discretion is advised. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Devin Zahn, and welcome to episode 8 of Tales for the Dark, Creepy Internet Stories. We got another great show for you guys today. We got another creepypasta, another true crime, and another cryptid case to cover. But as always, we have our housekeeping items to get through, starting with a little bit of a lighter note, and that would be our dad jokes for the episode. So we got 5 more dad jokes to go through, starting with, stop looking for the perfect match. Use a lighter. That's a good one, actually. Alright, so second one. Can February March? No, but April May. Okay, that's a cheesy one. And the next one is so cheesy and so classic, I'm actually going to skip over it. So, I'm so good at sleeping that I do it with my eyes closed. That's a pretty good one, too. Alright, so next one. Try the seafood diet. You see food, then you eat it. Okay, yeah, I would probably do a face palm if that was my dad telling me that joke. So, probably doing your job right. Next one, we have, what do you call a pencil with 2 erasers? Pointless. Okay. These are actually pretty good dad jokes, I'm gonna say. They're stupid, but they're like, okay, yeah, I can see it. I can see how it's funny. Alright, so last one for today is gonna be, did you hear the one about the roof? Never mind, it's over your head. I like that. It's a little bit of a dig at the same time as a joke, so I can respect that, because I am very sarcastic myself in nature, so very good. I like these dad jokes, and this is thanks to thepioneerwoman.com. Thepioneerwoman.com. So thank you very much. You guys actually have some really awesome jokes. I think I should have came to your site first. The last couple episodes, jokes probably would have been a lot better. But that being said, we are going to be moving into the next part of our housekeeping with our taste test. So, well, actually, this is the only other part of our housekeeping, I guess. But we got 2 new items to try today, one being a drink again, and one being a snack. So we're going to start with the snack so I can kind of wash it down with the drink. This is probably something some of you may know, I should say. These are like the Pockies or whatever you call them, but they're like a different brand. This is called P-Joy. It's green tea from Japan. It's matcha green tea cream-filled biscuit snacks. Snack sticks, basically. It's potkeys, if you know what those are. It's basically like it looks like a straw, but it's a snack you can eat. So, and looking at the back of this, here, I'm going to open this away from the microphone. Looking at the back of this, you can see that it has a lot of saturated fat in it. One box is the entire serving, so I mean, but it's still 48% of your daily recommended intake of saturated fat, which to me it screams heart attack. So we'll see how this goes. If I don't make an episode 9, you guys know what happened. Ooh, okay, this is interesting. They smell sweet. They smell very sweet. Okay, but these are green tea cream-filled matcha breadsticks. So let's see. Holy moly, that's really good. That doesn't even taste like green tea. It's just like a sweet flavor. I was expecting it to be kind of just like, ugh, you know. I like green tea, but like green tea is not sweet. This is actually really sweet. This is kind of like a candy, like, you know, like a sweet treat, like a dessert or something. This is really good. I'm definitely going to be eating the rest of these. I will say my one complaint is it's not strong by any means, but I don't know why, but there's a little bit of like a fishy undertone to it. I don't know. I like it. That is the green tea potkeys or whatever, pokies, whatever you call them. Very good. And I am actually very excited to try some more. Where did I put the packaging? It doesn't really matter. It does kind of matter. Okay. There we go. So we have one more taste test for today, and that is actually another green tea kind of thing. This is a drink. I can't read it because it's mostly Chinese or Japanese. I don't speak or read either. So this is Oi Ocha Koicha unsweetened bold green tea from the company Itoin. Japan. Oh, it's Japanese. Okay, so it's Japan's #1 green tea. This is let me see. There's a description on the back. Oi Ocha is Japan's #1 green tea brand. It means tea please. Enjoy the authentic taste of green tea produced by Ito En, Japan's premier green tea purveyor. It has a rich, bold taste, yada yada yada. Do not microwave this because a smart person would microwave this bottle. Okay, so green tea. I love how these Japanese bottles have like an all plastic tip. That's what she said. These bottles, you know, in like America, they're plastic as well, but they're like the same color as like the bottle. These are like a separate piece, like a separate plastic piece that is on top of the bottle itself. And it's a twist off, but it's different. So, this is the second time I've kind of noticed that, but there's really no smell to it. So I'm just gonna go, dive right in, wash this very awesome taste out of my mouth. That's what she said. Oh, nope. Oh, nope. Am I drinking dirt? I'm drinking dirt. Nope, nope, nope. I gotta take another one because, first impressions and all that. Oh, I'm gonna hate myself for this. I'm gonna puke if I do this again. Here we go. Oh, yep. That is the worst thing I've ever tasted in my life. And I had that seaweed chip disaster a couple episodes back. Okay, so those were our 2 taste tests. I gotta give them scores, and I think I gotta wash. I was gonna wash the Pockies down with the drink, but I think I might have to wash down the drink now with the Pockies. So, what I give the green tea cream matcha filled breadsticks, the Pockies, basically, technically not what they're called, I'm going to give them a solid 8. That was really good, and I would recommend that to anyone. So if you are in my area, go to your local Meijer and go to the ethnic food section, the Japanese, Chinese food section, and get yourself some of these. I think they're pretty new because I haven't seen them in my previous visits to the store. But 8 out of 10 for those. For the drink, which I was gonna say that I was expecting this to be better than the breadstick things, but this was horrible. It's like they went to a dirty stream, put a bottle in it, bottled it up, and just said, "Here, it's tea." You know, that is going to be a 2 out of 10. I am not even going to hesitate on that. Ew, it's just horrible. I know it's unsweetened tea, but I've had unsweetened tea, and that tastes like a horse's ass. So, 2 out of 10 for the tea. But that is it for our taste tests for this episode. So we're going to get into our stories for today, and that starts with our creepypasta story. And I think that's going to be something you're all going to be enjoying, and, well, it might keep you up tonight. Our first story today is going to be our creepypasta story, and it's entitled, "I Went to the Address on My Fake ID." So let's get into it. The following is a written confession obtained by the FBI, which has been leaked to the public. Reader discretion is advised. Our mission? To give young people a chance to experience adulthood. Man, they almost make it sound noble. That's what I thought as I scrolled through the About section of idlord.com, a site based in China, I believe, that sold fake IDs like hotcakes. It was surreal looking at something like this, some site that sells phony driver's license to kids with inspiring sales copies. I was 18 at the time, and 4 of my friends and I wanted to get one of those group deals on fakes. $60 per person, something like that, I think. If you went solo, it was north of 100, and since all of us were on board, we thought, what the hell? After doing some research on some shady sites on how to best contact the info on your fake, or concoct it, I was ready to place my order. Step 1. Use your real name, but a fake last name. This means that a bouncer won't toss you to the curb after your friends have been calling you Jake the entire time in line, even though your name on the ID says Fabio or some shit. The fake last name, well, come on. No need to explain the reasons for that. My real name is Jake Dalton, so I use the name Jake Norman on my fake ID. Step 2. Use the age 21. Though it's generic, it's a common age, and there are lots of people who are, in fact, 21. No need to stretch your age. Step 3. Your picture, well, make sure there's even lighting. I actually once knew a guy who got busted because on his fake ID photo, half of his face was covered in shadow. He had no idea, and why would he? He was a stupid 16-year-old. Step 4. The signature. Just make it look like you're not in kindergarten. Oh, and make sure it's the fake name you came up with, and not your real name. Step 5. The address. This trips some people up. Some people make up a completely fake address, but then they don't remember it when a suspicious bouncer asks them instead. Use your actual house number so you can remember it, then make the street name a fake one and change the state to whichever state your ID says. Alright, easy enough. So I got my fake in the mail, checking the mailbox profusely over the next couple weeks to make sure my parents didn't intercept my package. And it looked great. I lived in Asheville, North Carolina, and my fake ID was a Tennessee driver's license, the state which borders mine. I live at 30B Redacted. So the address on my ID was a place in Tennessee called 308 Redacted. Easy to remember, I guess. My friends and I, or should I say Jake Norman, had a blast that Friday night. We got past bouncers, we bought cases of beer, we got into bars and did shots with our cash tips that we had gotten at work. It was great. The following day, my friend Sammy and I were chilling on a Saturday afternoon. We were sort of hungover and a bit bored, just watching stuff on YouTube and reading stuff on forums. As we go through 4chan, we come to find that there is a thread for ID Lord, the site we got our fakes from. We decided to click on it, see how other folks made out with their fake ID experiences. There were little minor complaints. The UV light was a little high, or the signature looked a little stretched. But there were glowing reviews as well. And then we came across something that was a bit odd. There was a sub-thread which was titled, "The address I made up for my ID is a real address? Anyone else notice this?" What followed were half a dozen comments claiming the same thing. Naturally, Sammy and I went and looked up the address I had made up. There it was on Google Maps, 308 Whitebrook Lane, and in Tennessee no less. We thought maybe ID Lord used real addresses for realism, but surely that'd be illegal. I mean, I'm no law student, but that seemed like a form of impersonation. But there was one thing that really caught our attention. A few of the commenters claimed that the houses had made money stashed in the floorboards, lots of it. People came up with theories as to why this might be. The most convincing was that maybe the houses were drug houses used by the same cartel that sold the fake IDs. Well, being broke high schoolers, Sammy and I were soon en route to the address, which was only a few hours away from my house. It was sunset by the time we arrived. The house was a 2-story home, and it had a chain-link fence surrounding the property. A large oak tree stood in the backyard, looming over the house as if protecting it. Beyond that were some woods that stretched on into the next neighborhood. Sammy and I got out of the car and headed for the property. The chain-link gate creaked as we opened it and stepped through. We walked across the overgrown, dandelion-filled grass and went up the doorsteps and opened the screen door to knock. No answer. We knocked several more times and still no answer. "Dude," said Sammy, "let's fucking go in and look for the money." "Hell yeah," I replied. We went inside. The place had furniture in it, and it seemed as though someone was still living there. But everything was covered in a thick layer of dust, and we were never more than 3 feet from a cobweb, so we were fairly certain the house had not been lived in. Still, we had our doubts. "I don't know, man," I said. "We might be trespassing." "Look," said Sammy, "I ain't passing up a boatload of money. Let's tear this place up, find it, and get the hell out of here. No one's lived here for years. Look." Sammy ran his finger across a mantle, displaying the wad of dust that had snowballed onto his fingertip. "See?" he said. Yeah, I replied. "All right, let's get to it." We tore the place up, threw up couch cushions, rummaged through drawers, peeled away molding, put holes in the walls. It was dark now, and we were about ready to give up and go home. That's when we heard something. It sounded like a TV. "Shit, dude," I said. "Is that a damn TV?" Sammy and I stared at each other, with our jaws just agape. Our shocked, open mouths were pits of darkness, our eyes were bug eyes, and the sound of the TV was coming from upstairs. "You think someone just left it on?" Sammy asked, stupidly. "Oh my god, dude," I sighed. "We're fucked. Probably some old person who can't hear a thing. Only one way to find out." Sammy and I crept up the stairs. Each step creaked, and each time it did, we winced like we'd been pinched. Whatever was playing on the TV was a commercial, but I was pretty sure it was a super long infomercial because it sounded like the same voice had been talking for the past few minutes. We got to the top step, and I, at the forefront, peeked around the corner and gazed down the dark hallway. The hall stretched for about 20 feet, and there was a door at the end. Blue light flickered beyond it. "The TV, I presume?" I whispered. Sammy and I crept down the hallway. "Excuse me," I called. Sammy shushed me and slapped my shoulder as his eyes went wide. "The hell are you doing?" he hissed. "We're really sorry for being here," I said, ignoring Sammy. "We thought the place was empty. We got the wrong house," and my voice drifted off as we listened for a response. Nothing. We arrived at the end of the hall and pushed the door open. The room was empty, but it was what played on the TV that was really haunting. The TV was an OxyClean type infomercial with some guy shouting at the camera in an excited way. "At ID Lord, we value you," the salesman shouted. "You get to create a new you that is of legal age. A you that gets to party with the adults, get into clubs, and order a beer at your favorite bar. Get together for a group purchase and get 50% off your..." Sammy and I looked at each other with a big, open stare. "What the fuck?" I asked. "Let's go," said Sammy. "This is..." We turned around and there he stood. Or should I say, there I stood. It was me. Even in the shadows, I could see that it was me that stood across from us. Either I had a twin, or something had occurred that was beyond my comprehension. I couldn't speak. I could barely breathe. I went into a state of paralysis by fear. Me, the other me, wore the same clothes I was wearing in my fake ID photo. The hair was the same too. Something else matched too, the facial expression. When I had gotten my photo taken, I just gave a little half smile, and that was the expression the other me had plastered to his face, unmoving, unblinking. "Who are you?" I said. Still holding the same facial expression, the other me spoke. "You know who I am." You're me?" "No. You're Jake Dalton." Yeah. "I'm Jake Norman. I was gonna pay you a visit tonight, but it looks like you came to me." Before Sammy or I could do a thing, Jake Norman lunged for Sammy. My evil clone pounced on him like a tiger and bit into his neck. Oh my god. The gargling noise that erupted from Sammy's throat, that mix of screaming and bubbling blood. "Sammy!" I shouted. I tried to pull Jake Norman off of him, but the clone was firm as a statue, and pulling on him was like trying to uproot one from the ground. I backed away and got ready to run, just as Jake Norman lifted his blood-stained head and glared at me. I shrieked and booked it towards the stairs. I glanced over my shoulder just in time to see the other me roll onto his back, prop himself up, and proceed to spider walk after me. I flew down the stairs. The other me did that freaky spider walk down the steps, faster than any human could go in that position. I yanked open the door and ran to my car and hopped in. As I put the keys in the ignition, Jake Norman slammed his face against my window and pressed it to the glass, hissing as he ran his tongue along the glass. I started up the car and sped away. I went to the police immediately. I told the cops to go to this house and they'd find his body. When they did, they found nothing, not even a blood stain. I was suspected for Sammy's disappearance. I was eventually exonerated, but everyone still looks at me like I did it. I know what everyone is thinking. They think I'm a murderer. They think I'm gonna have to move, probably to another state. I think I'm gonna have to move to another state. But Those are the least of my worries. Jake Norman is still out there, and by God, he's coming for me. I know sooner or later he'll come looking, and he'll find me. Fact is, I would have been much better off in prison. Alright, so that was a creepypasta. Actually, this episode's going to be a lot of new things that I haven't read before, so I'm sorry that it wasn't exactly the best read creepypasta, but there we have it. That is our first story of this episode, entitled I went to the address on my fake ID. Long title. Actually, this was pretty well written for what I'm typically used to. All the popular creepypastas that I read typically have a lot of spelling errors and stuff like that, but this wasn't too bad. And story-wise too, I mean, it was good. It wasn't like, like let's make a movie out of this good, but it was good. Yeah. I mean, yeah. To be honest, who would go to a place on a fake ID that you had made from some sketchy website? Why would you go there? You're like, oh yeah, this is a real place. Let's check it out. Like you're asking to get murdered. I mean, I watch true crime on a daily basis, and I can tell you, no, don't do that. Now, what would I give this story as a whole? That is a whole nother story, which I'm not going to read, because obviously I'm just going to tell you now. I would give this probably a 6 out of 10. It's good. It has potential. It's a very good story. Short, sweet, which I like. It's not some hour and a half read that you're going to be like, what the fuck? At the end. And yes, sorry, language. And I think that's probably going to be the first time I said the word yeah on this podcast. But it's a good read. I do like this story a lot, though. And I will apologize for the awkward points where I say, like, redacted and stuff. It's literally, there's nothing there but a bunch of, like, asterisk signs, so I didn't really know what to say. But it's a good read. It's well written. I have really no complaints from a writer's standpoint. So 6 out of 10, because it could use some work, maybe some build up, some climax and stuff. It felt mediocre, to be honest, but mediocre is not always a bad thing. So 6 out of 10. So the next story we're going to be doing for this podcast is going to be our true crime story, and I think it's going to be something you guys may not have heard of. This episode's probably going to be the theme of things you probably haven't heard of. So let's pull the true crime out and we'll get to that. So our crime for today is the case of David Berkowitz, otherwise known as the Son of Sam. David Berkowitz is an infamous serial killer who operated from 1976 to 1977 in New York. He is also known as the Son of Sam and claims he committed his horrific crimes at the request of a possessed demon dog. Berkowitz has stayed under the radar of true crime enthusiasts for a long time, but his heinous acts need to come to light. His crime spree terrorized the citizens of New York, promptly launching one of the largest manhunts the area has ever seen. His reign of terror ended on August 10, 1977, but his story begins long before then. He was born under a different name, Richard David Falco. Though born to a Jewish mother on June 1, 1953, he was given up for adoption to Nathan and Pearl Berkowitz.
just a few days after his birth. He was a very intelligent kid, but struggled with the eventual loss of his mother, causing some behavioral problems. Eventually, he would go on to join the military, where he was stationed in South Korea. He was credited as being an excellent marksman. After his time in the military, Berkowitz moved back to New York in 1974, where he got a job as a letter sorter for the post office. His neighbors described him as being secluded and alone. His brutal killing spree began on July 29, 1976, when he shot at two teenage girls sitting in their car. Donna LaRue was killed while Jody Valenti was injured. It wasn't longer than a few months when Berkowitz was back at it, shooting at another couple in a parked car. The gentleman's skull was severely injured. A short while later, in November, he shot at two more girls coming home, ultimately leaving one a paraplegic. Cops at the time did not connect these crimes to each other. But this soon would catch up to him, because in January of 1977, he struck again, shooting at another couple parked in a car. Christine Freund was hit in the head and was later pronounced dead, but because Berkowitz used the same .44 caliber Magnum that he used in all of his previous shootings, he was first referred to as the .44 caliber killer, but he was later referred to as the Son of Sam, and cops were starting to catch up. In March, he would go on to kill Virginia Volkershan while she was walking home from class. In April, Berkowitz continued as he killed a couple, Valentina Surani and Alexander Ezu. This time, however, he left a note for NYPD stating for the first time he was the son of Sam. He left many notes for the police and almost relished in the fact his attacks were getting so much attention from the media. The rest of New York was living in fear of who might be his next victim. His biggest mistake occurred on July 31st, 1977, when he shot Stacy Moskowitz and Bobby Violante. Violante was blinded in one eye, while Moskowitz eventually passed away. But police finally had a witness they could talk to that would crack the case wide open. A witness came forward stating that the getaway car had a fresh parking ticket on its hood. Authorities tracked the ticket record to Berkowitz, who was arrested on August 10, 1977. Reports state that his comment when apprehended was simply, "Well, you got me." During interrogations, Berkowitz claimed he had been receiving commands on who to attack from his neighbor Sam Carr, who, according to Berkowitz, sent his demon-possessed dog over to relay said commands. Naturally, he was forced to submit to several psychological evaluations, but was ultimately deemed fit to stand trial. He later went on to pleading guilty to all murders and attacks, as well as setting nearly 1,500 fires throughout New York City. He was sentenced to 25 years to life for each murder. He did not go without a fight, though, going as far as to try and escape from a 7-story window upon hearing the judge's verdict. Berkowitz would later retract his Son of Sam story and claim in a letter to a psychiatrist that he had been part of a cult that had provided assistance in murders, including his neighbor's own son, Michael Carr, the Son of Sam. Berkowitz found this to be a means of making money as he began making books, movies, and documentaries as to delve into his story. And this was his way of making money behind bars. This led to many laws being passed stating that a prisoner cannot profit from any media, including movies, series, and books that is produced focusing on their crimes. He has been up for parole several times throughout modern history, but he has been constantly denied, and consistently denied. Berkowitz has written several pieces, including a book where he changed the name Son of Sam to Son of Hope. He also has a website supporting him, ran by his supporters and followers. Berkowitz wrote a lot on repentance and expresses to this day regret and sympathy for the victims' family members. He has also contributed to students studying criminology and focuses his time on repentance and forgiveness. On December 12, 2017, Berkowitz was transferred to a nearby hospital under unknown reasons where he had to undergo heart surgery. It wasn't until later that it was revealed he had a heart attack. Over the next year, he had to commit to additional treatment. That was all in 2018. The Son of Sam was a horrifically prolific killer who struck fear into the heart of the Big Apple. It goes without saying that it's much better that he's behind bars rather than left free to commit even more heinous acts. The Son of Sam is over. Let's hope the world never sees him again. Alright, that was it was a decently short true crime story, but that is The Son of Sam Berkowitz. So obviously it goes without saying, this guy is a huge monster, and the fact that he began to taunt police by leaving notes multiple times, it's like, ha, come get me, you can't catch me. But he was caught, and he's still rotting, as far as I know. The last post was from 2018. It's now 2021, 3 years. Who knows what's happened in this time, and who knows? He could still be out there. He could still be, well, he's in jail, but he could still be alive. And that's what's kind of more terrifying about cases like this, the more modern cases, even though this, it really wasn't that modern. People like this that are still alive, it kind of makes you wonder, like we've seen like Ted Bundy, he's escaped. I mean, what happens if this guy escapes? He's not going to stop, So, as usual, I don't rate the true crime stories, but this guy does not... I don't believe in the death penalty, but serial killers like this, I mean, it's more dangerous to keep them alive for fear of them escaping. And that's my personal opinion. I respect everyone else's. I don't know. I'm not comfortable with this guy still breathing air, so horrible person, but that is our true crime story for this episode. So we are going to move into our next story, which normally would be our cryptid story, but we're going to switch it up a little bit today. And by switching it up, I mean we're going to be doing a different style of story. It's not going to be a cryptid story. It's actually going to be a small group of stories based on a really huge Reddit fad that I've ran into, my sister has ran into, I'm sure a lot of you have ran into. We're going to be doing some Let's Not Meet stories. Little short stories, possibly true, unconfirmed, from Reddit. So here we go. I got a couple of them pulled up right here. Our first tale is called Don't Hitchhike Anymore Tonight. When I was 17, I didn't have a driver's license. In fact, I was 36 before I did. I walked most places, occasionally catching rides with friends, and less occasionally, hitchhiking. The night in question was one of those seldom seen occasions where I decided to hitchhike. Having worked late and, I was too exhausted to walk. Now, most of the time when I'd hitch a ride, I wouldn't get in the car with a lone man. Only women, or rarely men, with a wife/girlfriend or kids in the car. This night, though, cars were far and few in between, and it was cold, and really, if I'm being perfectly frank, when he pulled over, I took a good look and figured I could take him if he tried anything. He was on the slender side, and had a strange frailness about him, even though he looked healthy enough. I got into the car after we agreed on a destination. We'd exchanged names, and I warmed my fingers in front of the heating vents. He spoke quietly, asking a few questions along the lines of, was I a local, and how did I like living there? He said he'd only been there a couple months, but found it beautiful, and he hoped he could find happiness there. That comment struck me as a little odd, but I brushed it off. It began to snow, and the road quickly got slippery, so he slowed, and kept his eyes straight out the windshield, driving silently. I was okay with that, as small talk was never my forte. About 10 minutes later, I noticed a car near the intersection we were approaching seemed to be sliding. So I said, "Watch out!" He immediately hit the gas, shooting through the intersection, and burst with, "Don't ever scream at me." Needless to say, I was taken aback. I said, "Look, this is close enough. Just pull over here and I can get there." He didn't seem to hear me. Richard, did you hear me? I said you can pull over here and let me out." No response. He just stared straight ahead, driving faster now than he had been since it began to snow. To say I was scared doesn't seem to cover the depth of fear that began to arise in me. I didn't know if I should stay quiet or speak, but I was damn sure not going to yell after his outburst. After about a mile, he began to mumble under his breath. I couldn't quite make out what he was saying, but I assumed he was speaking to me, so I said, I couldn't hear you." He began to speak quietly and rapidly, saying things like, "You're always yelling at me. I told you time and time again I do not appreciate being yelled at, but do you listen? No. Well, I'm done listening to you now. Do you hear that?" I was at a complete loss. I didn't know what to say in response, or if I should say anything at all. I contemplated just jumping out of the car, but nixed that idea when I realized the door lock was missing. There was just a silver-lined hole where it should have been. I'd started to cry and debated with myself about causing an accident by grabbing the wheel and hoping for the best. At least I figured there was a chance I'd survive that. When he suddenly looked at me for the first time since I had gotten into the car. He blinked several times rapidly, then slowed the car, pulling into a gas station. I waited to see if he'd unlock the doors, not wanting to say anything to set him off again. After a minute or two, he quietly said, "I think I better let you out here," and hit the button to open the locks. I wasn't about to hesitate. I jumped out of the car as if it were on fire. I was about to turn and walk into the gas station when he called my name. He looked so damn sad, and I hesitated. He apologized, said he was sorry if he frightened me, that he never would have harmed me, and asked if I would be able to get home okay. I said I would, and I closed the door. He began to pull out of the gas station lot, but suddenly stopped. He just sat there for a couple moments, his head down. I froze, wondering what the hell he was up to, and was he about to run into the gas station? But he opened his window and yelled to me, waving something in his hand. My hat. I'd left it on his seat. I warily approached his car, and he handed it to me, apologizing again. I didn't know what else to say, so I just said, "Thanks." I watched as he drove off, making sure he was out of sight before moving, so he wouldn't know which direction I was heading in. I decided to go to a friend's house instead of my own home. As I walked, I went to put my hat back on, and out fell a piece of paper. Folded into the paper was a $100 bill. The paper said, "I'm sorry. Please take a cab and don't hitchhike anymore tonight." I didn't. In fact, it was the last time I ever hitched a ride alone. To the guy in the creepy truck, let's not meet again. That is the story by Sweet Mercy. So that was actually a pretty decent one. Creepy. I mean, it's not like in your face terrifying, but I would give that a solid 6, 7. I'd give that a 7 because that is creepy. I mean, you hitchhike alone, that's like a nope right there. But this guy muttering stuff under his breath, even more kind of like, this is leading to me being hung up on a meat hook or something. So, very good story. And that was from, again, Sweet Mercy. Good name, by the way, too. So that leads into our next story, which will be a pretty short one. We're only going to do 3 Let's Not Meets this time around. So this one is called Here I Am, I'm Going to Kill You. This happened to my parents back in the late 80s. They were in their mid-20s when this all occurred. My parents decided to go camping in cool California. When they got there, it was kind of late. My mom was sitting down on a log while my dad was unpacking the truck. While sitting down, she heard walking around the campsite, so she went and quietly told my dad she heard someone walking around. They noped the fuck out of there, just in case. They drove about 3 miles down the road with their headlights off, so they wouldn't be followed. Once they got there, they set up camp and began to drink their asses off while listening to a boxing match on the radio. Eventually, they settled in for the night. Now, they don't know for sure that this next event is connected to the first, but they believe it is. So, they settled in, and my dad was asleep far before my mom. My mom was in the halfway state where you're half awake and half asleep. Suddenly, she heard footsteps outside the tent. She abruptly snapped back to consciousness and listened. She tried waking my dad, but he was way too out of it. She listened for what seemed like hours, when suddenly she hears, in the creepiest voice you could probably ever imagine, say, "Here I am. I'm going to kill you." While saying this, the man ran, what she believes to be a knife, along the tent. She could hear him walking and dragging the knife. She was literally frozen. She couldn't say anything or move. With her mouth agape, she finally snapped out of it and screamed, "Jim, grab the shotgun! Kill that son of a bitch!" With that, my dad finally woke. They heard snapping of twigs and footsteps and heard the guy running away. Of course, my parents didn't have a shotgun. It was a huge bluff that actually worked. My dad got up seconds later and began to run after him, but he was long gone. After that, my parents decided they were getting the fuck out of there before anything else happened. When they saw their tires were slashed, they realized they were in the middle of nowhere with no way out with some maniac that wanted to kill them. They actually tried blowing up their tires with one of those things you would use to blow up grass. Obviously that didn't work, but they had to try, right? About an hour or so later, a ranger was patrolling the area and came along to help them out. He brought them back to town so they could get their tires fixed. While talking to the ranger, they found out that he had been searching for any suspicious activity due to recent murders nearby. My parents were likely the murderer's next victims. I tried finding some of the murder cases online, but I was unable to. So to the creep that was stalking my parents in the woods, let's not ever meet. That was Mojali's story, and I'm sorry the last kind of paragraph there sounded a little rough because I've noticed that with a bunch of these stories. They start out really well written, and towards the end, it almost seems like the writer got lazy and just wanted to get it done and over with. The grammar in the last paragraph here was so horrible that 95% of that was ad-libbed, based off the info in here. But, really creepy story. These are apparently true. So, very, very cool to hear first-hand experiences of people who survived, or people who know people who survived in this case. What would I give this story out of 10? I think I would give this one I would give a 7. No, I would give it an 8. Let's do 8. Only reason, I was thinking of 7 was because of the horrible grammar and general writing of the last paragraph. Everything else was fantastic, you know, but the last paragraph, I mean, even I struggled to be like, okay, what's going on here? But I digress. So that is our second story. So thank you to Mojali for that. And we have one more story that we're going to do for Let's Not Meet. And that is called Stranger Under the Bed. I'm 22, and this incident happened just a year and a half ago. I had just moved into my first apartment and was in the process of moving in. The door that led into my apartment locks itself automatically when closed, so I was going to the entrance of the apartment complex to get my mail while talking on the phone with my boyfriend. I returned to my apartment and sat on the bed while opening the mail while using the phone. I dropped the phone on the floor and it landed under the bed, so I had to lie on the floor to stretch for it. I saw something that caught my eye. There was someone under my bed. My eyes widened and I choked the urge to scream. The person under my bed was lying still with his back towards me and his head to his chest, so I couldn't see his face. And he didn't see me. Trying to be rational, while so many thoughts rushed through my head, I picked up the phone, said, "Sorry, I dropped my phone. I'm just going to take a shower and call you back." The bathroom is right by my bed, so I hastily walked in, quietly locked the door, turned the shower on, jumped out of my window, and called the police. They told me to wait nearby, but to go across the street and see if anyone comes out the door to the apartment complex. This was during summer and it was still light out. I placed myself across the street, hiding behind a car while watching my open bathroom window and the entry door. I called my boyfriend and he came to me just before the police did. I gave them my keys and they went inside. Only moments later, 2 cops came out holding a thin and tired-looking man. His eyes looked crazy, but he didn't try to get away. The policeman that had stood beside me and comforted me while the police searched through my house told me the man stood outside my bathroom door with one of my kitchen knives waiting for me to come out. This man had somehow crept into my entry door while I was getting my mail and hid under the bed. The man that was trying to hurt me turned out to be a homeless person and was placed in a mental hospital. My boyfriend moved in with me the very next day. Thanks for reading. I just wanted to share my story so that others know what to do in a situation like this. The police told me that what I did was truly amazing and rational. If I had screamed, this could have ended really badly for me. That was a story from Myra. So, thank you very much for listening to that one too. That one was pretty good. I did like that. Very few grammatical errors in that. Plus, it is just a very creepy, terrifying story. And think of it. If she hadn't dropped her phone by some, strange freak of nature incident, she could have died. She could have gotten murdered. And we don't like murders here. I mean, they make for a good read, but no, these are true stories. I'm really happy when it's an outcome like this. It's taken care of before something bad actually happens. But overall, I really did enjoy this story. So, what would I give this story out of 10? This one is going to be a solid 8 as well. 8.5 if I'm being generous. It's a good story. It's short, it's sweet, it's to the point, and it's terrifying. This lady did the most rational thing she could do in a situation like this. And that is act like everything's fine, get to safety, call the cops. Even though sometimes the cops are like, "We don't have evidence, so we can't help you out with that." But that is it for our Let's Not Meet stories for this episode. I think I might continue these as kind of like a mini-series, like mini-sodes. I mean, it'll keep it kind of structured. So I think with that, we're done with all of our stories for today. That's a record for us. We did 5 stories in this one episode, and it's still pretty short. So we are going to get into the final closing statements for this episode, including our new fan shout-outs, and basically just shout-outs to the pages and other projects I work on. So let me pull that up real quick. So as always, we're going to start with our new listeners for this episode. A couple of shout-outs for you guys. We got Holly B. So thank you very much for joining. Adriana R. Jonathan G. and Jerry C. So not a whole lot of new listeners this time around, but equally important. You guys are very cherished. I appreciate all the support you guys give. And as always, I'm going to tell you guys, like I tell everyone else that joins, send me content. Give me ideas for new stories to do. Interact. This is supposed to be a community of people who just enjoy creepy stories. So, and that's what we're doing. So, thank you all very much for joining. And as always, a shout out to everyone else I've mentioned in previous episodes. Your continued support really does mean the world to me. So this will be a very short and sweet exit for this episode today, because I don't have a whole lot left to say. I will be taking a short break. Consider this about halfway through our first season. So we'll take a break for, you'll probably see an episode in about 3 weeks. But in that time, there will be bonus content coming out. I am taking a trip alongside the Strange Sessions Krista to the Sheboygan Insane Asylum in just a couple weeks here. I cannot videotape, but I can take pictures, I can record EVP, and I will be posting stuff about that. And I will also be doing another mini-sode coming up. If you guys didn't kind of catch the idea with the Let's Not Meet stories today, that's what our topics are going to be in those mini-sodes. So if you like Let's Not Meet, you're going to like our mini-sode series. So stick around for that as well. And, well, other than that, follow us on our Facebook page at Tales for the Dark - Creepy Internet Stories. If you see a tree with an orange background and a jack-o'-lantern face, you found us. Join the page. Join in the conversations. You know, there's hints for next episodes. I think you guys will enjoy it. And I enjoy having you guys. So, our podcast is located on YouTube and Castbox. Possibly in the future, we might be getting on Spotify too, but that actually costs money to put your podcast on there, so I have to kind of move around some funds. I digress. And finally, our email for submissions, if you don't want to message us on our Facebook page, is talesforthedarkcis@gmail.com. So, yeah, that's pretty much it from the Zahn Cellar today. I don't know what else to say. So thank you guys very much for listening, and I will catch you guys in the next episode, which will either be the Sheboygan Asylum or minisode. You get it. You guys have a good one. I'm out.